Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
On this week's program, a push for greater school bus safety, a call for easier access to driving exams, and a plea to improve farm safety, plus a proposed constitutional change to guarantee quality education. Stay tuned for this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Lurky. In emotional testimony before the Senate Agriculture Committee, the importance of farm safety came to light.
Our son Landon is not a statistic. He was our son. He was a brother. He was a friend. He was a boyfriend, a grandson. And he died alone in a grain bin. Against OSHA's rules and regulations of two people being with any time when you're working around a grain bin, having two with him, he was alone for hours, found on an empty grain bin floor. This death was preventable. And that is my point. We need to prevent the preventable. I'm asking you to please help me, our family, and every farm family that this possibly could happen to, and we never know when. We never know why, but we know it will happen again.
Senator Nick Frentz is author of a bill to create a farm safety grant program, and he now joins me in the studio. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
This has been a particularly bad year in Minnesota for grain bin deaths. What brought this issue of farm safety generally and grain bin safety particularly to your attention?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, it's been a bad year for grain bin accidents and fatalities across the state. That's always tough for any of us to watch. And in August, we lost a young man in our district, Landon Grahn, to a grain bin accident. And working with his family, we conceived the legislation, working with farm groups and the Commissioner of Agriculture, and have brought it to where it is today.
Farming is dangerous work. Obviously, safety improvements across the board can make the work safer for people. So what are some of the safety items that are currently available to improve grain bin safety?
It's a great question, and farm safety is not a new topic for us. We've been working on it for decades as a state, University of Minnesota, individual farm groups. We used to have a farm safety advocate working for the extension. Harnesses, automatic shutoffs, protections for the auger, the sweep, other innovations that are out there that people have talked about which aren't to market yet, lots of things. And the bill would allow all of those to be cost shared by the state in a voluntary grant program, and it has a specific part of it that says other safety features. So if this spurs innovation and safety, that'd be a great thing and it'd be covered.
So grain bin safety is one thing, tractor rollovers is another category in your bill. That's another leading cause of death on the farm. And newer tractors do have rollover safety features, but for a variety of reasons, many farmers prefer their older technology, and it doesn't have the rollover safety. So how much does it cost to retrofit your tractor and how much would these grants be for?
Well, we've seen some different estimates that the average tractor retrofit, which we define as before 87, about $800, $850. And so the cost share is 70% for the state, up to a maximum. And that means the farmer can, on a voluntary basis, find a retrofit kit that protects the farmer when it's rolled over and install it. We also created a provision in 2017 that I authored that allows school agricultural education programs to get 100% of the cost share.
So school agriculture gets 100%, but for both grain bin and tractor safety, is it sort of 70-30 where the state gives a grant for 70%, the farmer ponies up 30%?
Good question. You did your homework. We're going to have, in the current version of the bill, which as you may know cleared the Senate Agriculture Policy Committee and is headed to Agriculture Finance, which I'm proud to serve on, 75% up to $1,000, whichever is less. So that sort of defines the boundaries of what the farmer can apply for, and also a little bit of the cost parameters.
I ask just because I grew up in a rural area, and I know that farmers can be frugal, they can be independent, and they're pretty risk tolerant because they live in the boom bust cycle of the weather anyway. So, you know, there's a certain amount of taking their chances that they're used to doing, and yet as a state we want them to be safe. So how do you convince them to really take safety into consideration?
Well, I think we always want to focus on workplace safety, whether your job is a fireman, or you work in a factory, or you work in an office, or you work on a farm. So I hope workplace safety is everybody's priority. What we do when we talk to these groups and what we talk to individual farmers is, first of all, point out that safety can be a good investment, a good value. Point out that tragic things do happen, and that the more grain is stored in the bins, the more we have people in these bins, and the more we're at risk of these accidents. And just ask them to consider some things that maybe they hadn't thought of before. We do hear a lot about the automatic shutoff and the question of whether a farmer can wear something on his wrist, and maybe that's a little bit less intrusive to the farmer's day-to-day operation. Maybe it causes some to go ahead and apply for the program. If we were able to avoid some accidents, I think the bill's been a success.
Do you think there's a generational shift? Maybe, I know that farming currently, farmers tend to be older, but there are new farmers coming up. Do you think the younger farmers will be more interested in these safety features maybe than their older peers are?
I do, and that's a good question, because we're watching a generational change now as the farms go to the sons and daughters of lifetime farmers across the state. We're also hoping to fund, by the way, the RFA, which allows for some beginning farmer loans. That's a different topic for the same committee. All we can ask of younger farmers is take a look at why these things might be good for you and your family. And if we do, we think we'll find some willing takers, again, in this voluntary program.
We've talked about two major areas, grain bin safety and tractor rollovers. Are there other areas of farm safety that are kind of on the horizon that maybe you would think about in the future rolling into a bill like this?
I'd say those are the two main ones that we hear about, and unfortunately we hear about grain bin safety because of the unfortunate tragedies of the last year or so. So again, with workplace safety, whether it's farm or not, we see electrical issues, we see fencing, we see livestock. We want to promote safety in those ways too. I don't see the next safety issue on the horizon, at least this session.
Republican Senator Tori Westrom has a bill that would create grain storage facility safety curriculum that would be taught through the University of Minnesota Extension. This is another, do you agree that this is also a good idea?
I do. I could not support that idea more. As you may know, our bill, which is Senate File 3007, has an education component which can be administered under the current language through the Department of Agriculture and the Commissioner Tom Peterson. But to make safety curriculum a part of the way the next generation studies, I think that's exactly what we should be doing. Again, for an investment now, we may prevent tragedies later. The only thing is those families for whom we prevent the tragedies don't know that they had it avoided. They didn't get the call that there was a tragedy, and so we really don't have that group advocating to say, hey, my son didn't get in an accident, or my father wasn't in this grain bin. But at the University of Minnesota, to add it into the curriculum, I think is exactly the direction we should be going.
Do you have bipartisan support?
I do. I'm very proud to have Senator Draheim, who's my neighbor in Senate District 20. He's actually a Mankato East graduate, as an author on the bill, and Senator Dames is preparing to sign on to the bill as well, in addition to my friends on the DFL side, Senator Kent Eakin and Senator Dan Sparks, both of whom have a farm background. And you know, what we're asking for the people of Minnesota to consider is, isn't everybody in Minnesota important, and shouldn't we protect them in the workplace? And with what we're seeing in farm safety and the surplus, seems like a time to invest some money into these things. And if we have the kind of success we did with the tractor rollover protection system bill, I think we'll be very well served.
Senator Nick Frentz, thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. After hearing compelling testimony this week, members of the Transportation Committee called a press conference to push for greater school bus safety awareness.
Every time I see it, there are gasps in the room because it is shocking to watch.
It's literally stunning. And one of the things that I heard today is that between 100 and 250,000 violations a year of people going by a school bus with the stop arm out. And I just had no idea of the severity of the problem.
My bill's quite simple but quite important. It brings exposure to school bus safety and creates a little fund of money to help use to promote the problem of people not stopping for school buses.
A year ago on January 16th, I was driving my regular route in the morning, about 7 in the morning, and the car doing about 25-30 miles per hour went through the stop sign. In the process, it went just about hit a girl that was crossing the road, and the girl's brother was still in the driveway, so it went between the two kids, so we could have had 2 kids dead children that day.
Joining me now to talk more about school bus safety is Assistant Majority Leader and Vice Chair of the Transportation Committee, Senator John Jasinski. Thanks for being here.
You bet, Shannon. Love to come.
You discussed school bus safety in a committee hearing this week and also held a press conference to highlight the importance of school bus safety. What are the areas of concern?
You know, a failure to stop for the stop arm, or when a vehicle is passing down the road and the stop arm comes out with the stop lights and the flashing lights, we're still, shockingly enough, seeing cars go by that and not stopping for that stop arm. So we saw such compelling testimony yesterday in the video, as many people saw, of people just ignoring these stop arms. So we want to raise the awareness to make sure people are aware of that they have to stop for these, and what safety issues it puts our kids into if they don't stop.
So you're referring to that video that we saw, and I would encourage anybody to go to that committee and watch it. It's been described as stunning, shocking, near misses, drivers just barely missing children, semis coming around on the shoulder. Senator Rich Draheim has proposed a campaign of awareness. Like, what might this look like?
Well, I think this is a great thing that we can do right here as a media thing like you're doing. So to raise the awareness, the media, we had a great show turnout yesterday from media people. So to get it across and get it in the Tribune, get it in the Pioneer Press, and get it in our local newspapers that we need to have this. And then the bill also calls for $50,000 for maybe some television ads and things like that, maybe some billboards, just to get that word out to make sure people really need to understand they have to stop for these stop arms. It puts our kids in so much danger if they don't stop. And there was a couple videos first that you really didn't see a huge safety issue because the kids were on the one side of the street and they didn't stop. But if you look at some of the other videos that they were crossing, or was early in the morning and or into the sunset, having those stop arms out there and people stopping to make sure they see those kids is so important here in Minnesota.
Another idea that I heard in committee of Senator Rich Draheim was to extend the length of those stop arms. Or I think there was one other, it's escaping me right now, but is that something that could be done? I
think they're looking at that. I think there's some kind of law that says it can only be in the lane of traffic. It can't go out into the next lane of traffic. But looking at that, maybe there's an exemption for this, because I think I saw a graphic of a bus stop arm that went way out. It was about an 8-foot arm that really did stop, so that would have to make people stop. So I think it's something we should look at. I think there's also some flashing lights and some things like that to get on there as well to try and raise that awareness. I don't know how some of these people can't see it, because I drive every day and I see them very, you watch for that type of thing, especially in the mornings at 7 to 7:30, and then in the afternoons from 3 until 3:30 is something every driver should be aware of when they're driving their vehicle.
Senator David Osmek suggested that we should potentially consider stiffer penalties, like DUI, for people who are doing things that are so dangerous. Now, I don't know if it's just for the act of doing it or if fatality or serious injury results, but should the legislature look at stiffer penalties? We should look at stiffer penalties or mandatory sentencing or something like that. They talked about an instance where there was a near miss, and I think that the driver was only fined, I think it was $300, $150 surcharge, and then some community service. So for something like that, with a near miss as bad as it was, there should be stiffer penalties for something like that. And there was some repeat offenders where they can actually get the driver's license that they've had a second instance of the same type of safety issue. There were school bus drivers who testified that smaller companies, some buses do have cameras, so they can get video of these drivers as they violate the law. Some of the smaller companies can't afford that technology. The drivers simply don't have the time or the wherewithal to get enough information to be able to bring charges. So another possibility maybe is to outfit all school buses with that kind of camera technology, so you can catch them in the act?
Yep. I think we need to look at that, or some possible sharing or something with these schools. If there's some money available, we should look at that. You know, it's a he said, she said if you don't have the video. The school bus driver, and what we saw yesterday, they're just so shocked and so upset by what happened, they can't get the license plate, and there was so much more detail that was required. And then they got into some of the courts, and they were throwing some of those things out because they didn't have the type of a vehicle, or just a lot of things about the color and things like that. So if you don't have all that information, it really gets thrown out in court. So having those videos there that actually proves it, they were saying a much more success rate by having video, that when they went into court, the people did plead guilty because they knew there was a video there versus trying to contest it. So I think it's important. We should look at it. We need to make our kids safe here in Minnesota.
Now, there was one other bill before the committee that's your bill. It would allow an interim inspection safety certificate on new school buses. Correct. What's behind this? So
what happens is every year, every bus company has to have all their buses inspected on an annual basis. The State Patrol comes in and does that. They have some specific staff that goes out and does that. But what happens sometimes if they buy a bus in the middle of that time where they have to replace a bus, what's been happening as a practical purpose is they give them an interim certificate until that next inspection. But what we found out by statute, that's not allowed. So what we did is change the statute or the law that basically says they can do that interim permit until the next annual inspection comes around. They have to get those buses out if they have say a bus gets in an accident and they need to replace that bus. This just saves the State Patrol going on a specific trip out to, let's say, War Road, Minnesota, or Winona, Minnesota for one specific trip. It's a new bus. They're all built to safety standards, so it gives them an interim permit to make sure that they can get on the road right away.
One other question I have for you. There was a Star Tribune article last November that reported a 12% failure rate among the state's largest school bus company in meeting safety standards. So we're talking about inspections, and these bus companies, or these buses, are annually inspected. But is there enough oversight being done to ensure the safety of the buses? Is annual enough? How do we ensure that those buses that are carrying the state's children are as safe as they can possibly be? Well,
I think the annual inspection is working. 12% is a huge number, but it's something we should certainly look at. They explain some of the typical infractions are some buzzers on some back doors and some window things and some smaller things. So there may be some issues there. But whether they're a huge issue or not, we don't know. So I'd like to look at that and see if we can find out if we need to do that more on a semi-annual basis. But I believe at a 12% in some of the issues, I think they're getting those corrected. Every school bus company that I know and I've talked to are very concerned about safety to make sure that their buses are out there. They're safe for the kids to make sure, because they all have kids. So.
Senator Jasinski, I want to thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This week, bipartisan lawmakers from the House and Senate called for an amendment to the Minnesota Constitution that would guarantee every child the right to a quality education.
It is no secret that our state has a significant educational disparity gap, which also is an opportunity gap between children of color and those from the low-income background with their white counterparts. Despite our best effort, it is one of the worst in the nation. The Minnesota Department of Education reported on October of 2019 that less than 40%, or less than 4 out of every 10 Black, American Indian, Latino, Hispanic children are at proficiency by the 11th grade. So what that means is that we are graduating children today who are underprepared to succeed in the workforce or college.
We need to elevate the state's responsibility so that all kids are ensured a quality education, so that the legislature has a mandate to go out and do their job and to change it. Because right now, without something like this, the status quo will keep pushing forward and the achievement gap will just get wider.
As our demographics shift across our state, we literally no longer can afford the consequences of the current achievement gap. I agree with Chair Moran that no parent aspires their child to get an adequate education. No business looks for adequate employees. They look for the exceptional. They look for the people that are going to take them to the next level. We need to commit to doing better in Minnesota for all of our children, family, our communities, and our workforce.
Education is the great equalizer among us. We have to work to shift the paradigm and eliminate these gaps. Schools throughout the entire state must serve all children better. This amendment is meant to challenge the system, not teachers, by shifting power to families. Too many adults have a vested interest in the status quo, and too many children are left behind.
Last fall, KARE 11 reported significant problems for drivers seeking to take their road tests in order to get a driver's license, especially in the Twin Cities. Senator Karin Housley is sponsoring a bill that would potentially alleviate the gridlock by allowing privately employed instructors to give road tests. She now joins me in the studio. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me again, Shannon.
In September, the KARE 11 News reported that people were sleeping in their cars or driving, far-flung areas of Minnesota in order to get their driving tests. Was this the first time that you learned of this issue?
No, it was not the first time I had learned of this issue. It actually happened to me and my daughter. We've got 4 kids, and with the older 3, there was no problem in getting their driver's license exam, but the youngest one, she failed her first time, and then we wanted to get her back in, and it was going to be a 2-month wait, so we went early morning, woke up early morning, hoping we could get in one of those driver's spots that were going to open up. We didn't. We had to do it again the next day. She passed. But then she's now 22. So I went, what happened between the 33-year-old and the 22-year-old? And then I have a girlfriend who has 5 kids under the age of 18, and she said, oh, wait, it's way worse. She drove 700 miles for her oldest 2 kids to get their driver's license. They each failed one time, but then she went up to Moorhead, then she went down to Rochester. And so this was an issue that I can't figure out why it kept getting worse and worse and what the backlog was. So the KARE 11 story just put icing on the cake, but I already had the bill drafted before the KARE 11 story.
So your bill would authorize private instructors to give driving exams in addition to the state facilities that do. What are the benefits of this approach?
Well, it just opens it up to have a lot more people offering or doing the driver's license testing, and it would still have to be licensed by these individuals. It was a driving school that came to me. And they said, here they go through all of these hours of driving with the kids, the behind the wheel, and then they're 50 hours with their parents. And then they actually really know if this kid's ready or not ready. But then you send them off to the state to get their test, then they fail, and then they have to wait another 4 months. They said, wouldn't it be great if we could actually go to the state, be licensed just like they are to give the driver's license exam? And so I went, that's a really good idea. So that's what sparked it, and then again, the long wait for all of these kids. So they do it for bus driving. For your CDL licenses, they have third-party private testers. So I thought it would be a great idea to open it up so these kids don't have to wait 3-4 months to get in there to get their driver's license test.
So you mentioned that these third-party testers would be licensed by the state. Is there a way to guarantee that the standards are the same?
Yeah, because it would be the same person at the state who would license the person who is doing the driving exam, not the student, but the teacher. And it would be the exact same over here, just like they do it for the bus driver's license. So these people would have to go take the class and get licensed by the state. So it would be apples to apples. They would have to be licensed by the same state of Minnesota.
Now, presumably, the private instructors would charge a fee in order to, because you have to pay for the class anyway, and then I guess it would end with the exam. But when you take your test with the state, your first 2 driving tests are free. So is this setting up a 2-tiered system where people with more means have easier access to their driving tests than those without?
I think what it does do, and I was just calling the state too, because the guy in the testifier said it was free, but when I looked online, it said it was like $32, and I can't remember back when. But no, what I think it'll actually do is it'll open it up for more free spots to be available. If people want to sign up at a driving school and then just have that be the end test result, they'd still have to go to the state to get their driver's license. But that would open up so many more of the free spots at the state, so it would actually benefit everybody.
The Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Public Safety testified before the Transportation Committee that the recent gridlock is due in part
to a 47% failure rate of first-time test takers, as well as 20% of people who just schedule exam and don't show up. What if DPS just hired more staff and expanded hours? They did that last fall. They opened up on weekends and everything. If they accommodated more to the high demand, would that solve the issue, or do you really think the third party is the right way to go?
Well, I don't know why if the 47% failure rate would be any different in 2020 than it was in 2012. But the 20% that's not showing up, what they were doing at the department was actually letting certain driving schools reserve their spots. And so if there's no show, that's a fault of their own, because if a kid goes through a certain driving school, they only allowed like a handful of driving schools, gave preferential treatment to these handful of driving schools.
And they have since stopped that practice.
And they, end of January.
Yes.
So I'm not sure where they're getting the 20% no-shows, because now it's only February. So I question those numbers and the reason behind it. So I don't know. I think it would be good for everybody, for the parents. They don't have to take off work to drive to Moorhead. For the kids, they don't have to have that anxiety waiting 3 months to get their driver's test. And it'll free up more spots for everybody else.
Now, the assistant commissioner also expressed concern about safety. He said there are several other states that do allow third party, and that their driving records are not as good. They have more accidents per million drivers than we do in Minnesota. We are a very safe driving state. The assistant commissioner raised that concern. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. There's 2 states, Idaho and Montana, that have third-party testing, and the terrain in Idaho and Montana is so much different than Minnesota also. And there are many states that do third-party bus driving tests, and the accident are equal across the board.
So the real test is going to be this summer, when all of the 16 and 17-year-olds are ready to go get their licenses. How will DPS handle it this summer unless your bill passes? Would it be in place in time for peak driver exam season?
Yeah, we would have to get the bill to pass, and we would have to get third-party testers in to get their exam. And we're approaching that season. It starts in May, so hopefully we can get it through and get it passed. I actually think it doesn't take effect until August 1st. So, but we still have the August, September, and October drivers out there with the no snow testing out there. So hopefully we can get that done.
And at this point, do you know, is there bipartisan support? Is there something happening in the House?
Yeah, I just heard that somebody is authoring it in the House, and I do have bipartisan support from my fellow senators, legislators here. So hoping we can get it heard in the House and we can come to some sort of agreement and get this done for our kids.
Senator Karin Housley, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Shannon.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Lurky, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.